Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. With me as always is...
Phil, me and Parrish.
Hey Phil, so glad you're here. So glad to once again talk about all the super connections in the Marvel Universe and beyond. Because yes, this is technically a Marvel podcast because I talk about what interests me. What interests me is Marvel, but every so often we do get into that stuff that's outside of the Marvel sphere. And now, with our move to Capes and Lunatics, we're going to be talking about all the capes, all the lunatics, and all the conjunctions in between. Ooh, see how that works? Conjunctions between capes and lunatics? This means something. Phil, do we have any interesting letters from loyal listeners today?
Yes, we actually have an email from Stockton, our good friend Stockton Piner. I'm sorry I haven't gotten to it in the last week or so, Stockton. It takes all I have to keep up with the brilliant intellect of Mr. Charlie Esser, so... and I'm usually tired, but Stockton says, "Hey guys, I'm currently listening to Superconnectivity, good, and had to write in when I heard you mention openings for Legion or independent comics podcast. I watched and loved every episode of Legion. It is such an amazing show, and I would relish the opportunity to discuss it with one of you guys or any of the fine podcasters at Southgate Media Group. As far as comics go, I have been feeling the ever-increasing draw of the independent scene. I am pulling several books from Image, Black Mask, Boom, Dark Horse, and Danger Zone, with new titles being added constantly. I feel that indie books are where writers and artists are truly allowed to express themselves, which leads to some of the most imaginative concepts that push the boundaries of the comics medium. If the channel would like to have a show dedicated to these books, then I would love to be part of it. Charlie, I know you've been looking for a co-host for a Powerless podcast. I just watched the first 2 episodes and found the show quite enjoyable. It would be an honor to fill the second seat next to the professor to discuss this quirky entry into the DC universe. Take care, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Stockton Piner." Well, Stockton, I'm sorry. I don't think that Powerless thing's going to go down, but
we could do a rewatch. I'm just saying, I'm not opposed to a rewatch, Stockton. So I certainly that really intrigues me because we can talk about what it was, what we liked about the show, what its potential was, where it had its failings, and maybe we can even start some drum beats to say, hey, because they haven't officially canceled it yet. I think this is one of these things where they're going to sort of let sit on the vine for a while, and then maybe basically just before the contracts expire, either bring them back or tell them to go their own ways.
Hey, if you and Stockton want to revisit that and even do that for Capes and Lunatics, I mean, you could do that. I mean, how many episodes did they air? Like, was it 5 or 6?
Yeah, they've only aired a few. I think it's like about a half season right now. I think they technically have a full season in the can, but we'll find them. If it's 13 episodes, we can do 13 shows. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. Okay. As to Legion, and again, I know folks love Legion. I have not gotten the chance to watch it yet. I watched the first episode. I said, "Oh, this is really cool," but I said,
there's time. That doesn't come back till 2018.
Yeah, so, but maybe we can figure out, or I'm also spread a little thin, but maybe we can find someone that can podcast with Stockton about that. You know what? We will get you in touch with Rob. We will work with you to get you a podcast on this network, and of course, the Indie Comics podcast. I would listen to that. I mean, I would love to talk indie comics. It's just I can't afford them. I mean, yeah.
I mean, does Image count there? Because I was going to say I read Spawn and Walking Dead. Image. I would talk those 2. Yeah, so I get 2.
And we know that Lilith will talk any Archie comics with you.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. So you know what? Let's work on this. Let's try and get some connections. Hey, maybe we got our first comics podcast for Capes and Lunatics. Yeah.
We'll discuss comics in the main show, but yeah, like our first spin-off on comics, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe it's an option. I'm just saying, there's ideas out there. Stay in touch with us, Stockton, because we are not the most on the ball guys in the world. So
maybe I'll email Stockton in private then.
Yeah. Well, we'll get some emails going, and maybe we can. Are you on Facebook, Stockton? Because we need to get some friendships going here so that we can pull you into the secret Facebook message boards where we do all of our dark not Kabbalistic, but Kabbalistic plotting to take over the internet. Okay, from there, speaking of dark cabals, you want to talk Secret Empire, Phil?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Secret Empire #1 dropped this week. And, by the way, it's Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo, one and all. Bueno Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo es muy bueno. Okay, man, there is so much to go through in this. So first obvious point, Phil had long made this statement that, the last time we saw the real Red Skull is he was trapped inside Steve Rogers' brain. Now, who thought that was a good idea to leave him there? I don't know. But someone did at some point. So, I'm just saying that is like, right up there with anything you do with Xavier's brain. It's just not the good idea to just leave that stuff lying around,
I'm trying to remember. Was it Steve Rogers who's like, oh yeah, I'll just lock you in my brain?
Well, he was in his brain and then he got locked in there. No, he wasn't locked inside Kobik. Right? No,
Mm-mm.
I don't know. Anyway,
Mm-mm.
the real Red Skull is out there somewhere. We know that. That much we know. Exactly where we don't know, but we know he's somewhere. And the cover of although, fun point, that Red Skull died with that Steve Rogers on the old world.
Yeah, but I never know if they're like, they're dead or like, the secret stuff like Secret Wars, if it's like a big reboot and everyone just gets reset, they technically they may have died, but they get put back.
Well, but here's the thing. And here's the thing of it is that, when you say, oh, technically they died, but maybe they got brought back, it's like, well, no, they didn't get brought back. The universe came into existence. Because essentially, here is where it is on the spectrum of time. The universe ceased to exist. Okay? After that point, the universe came back into existence and came into existence on a full spectrum of time. It's important to understand that, what Franklin recreated was a universe that existed as if it had always existed. And one way to think about it is kind of like from the point at which Franklin recreated the universe's past and future spread out from there at some rate. I don't know what that rate is. I'm sure there was somebody who actually calculated the math of how long changes take in time from Back to the Future, because you could probably look at the projected time of the film, look at how quickly people disappeared from Michael J. Fox's photograph, and figure out exactly how long it takes a change in the past to affect the present, and then and things from the present being likewise fully affected. I bet you there's some really crazy math on that, and you'd have to see if it's consistent throughout the film series. Yes, but anyway, getting back to the point at hand. What was my point at hand? But when that universe is created, its past gets recreated, as does its future. And like I said, I think that is the main reason why this... Essentially what Kobik created was an alternate universe.
Mm-hmm.
Because there wasn't a solidified past yet. Much like we see in the Ultimates when the Master Chaos and Lord Order destroy the Living Tribunal. And then, merge into one being it's because, the universe is not solid yet. There are no firm concepts in this universe yet. And likewise, so the past and the future are not set. And so there is this ability to manipulate it and recreate it however you so desire, if you have the power and the energy to do so. As the First Firmament says, it was when the universe was reformed into the eighth universe that, it saw eternity was weak. That for the first time, eternity was weak and it could attack. And so it did. And this goes to something I think that we're seeing in Secret Empire, which is this fact that after Hydra has taken over, how quickly everyone just embraces it. You know?
Yeah, but do you think there's something maybe pushing this further? Like maybe cosmic cube radiation in the atmosphere because Kobik was detonated.
I mean, anything is possible. We don't know. I mean, it could also be, yeah, actually, Faustus makes a point about them, there's actually some great lines in here where basically every insane conspiracy you ever heard in the, is basically called out in this. It's like, yeah, we've got we've put these chemicals in the water that makes people, a little more docility and receptive to our receptiveness to our desired. It should do at least until the new chemtrail formula is ready. It's just insane. And the idea is that perhaps that's part of it, is that, they're working on poisoning people with these chemicals to make them obedient. I don't know how practical that is as a plan for obvious reasons, but this is a comic book, so obviously facts is facts. But so getting into the Secret Empire, there's so much to deconstruct here. Not the least of which is just that, Cap is so conflicted in his... It's like, I'm Hydra. I've always been Hydra. Why do I feel bad about everything that Hydra does? And I think this is what I have always said about the Hydra that he was made a part of. It was always intended as a child's understanding of Hydra.
Yeah.
It was always her way of understanding Hydra because it was the stories told by her Uncle Johann about how glorious Hydra was as an organization. And, for what it's worth, and these were his fairy tales of Hydra. And so the idea that the Hydra somehow won the war, Act 4, we win the war. Little producers call out there.
Well, it got me thinking, because I was telling you the other day that on a lot of the pages in Secret Empire #1, it looks like Steve's was looking all sad and stuff. And, not a guy who's believing totally in his convictions. What I know originally I was saying, and I guess it could still happen, is, he could either fight his way through this or he could get reverted back to normal. But I wonder if Marvel would leave him this way, but he becomes disillusioned with Hydra.
Well, like I said, I really feel that's what they're going to do. That he's going to be sitting here at the end of this. At the end of this, I think he's just going to walk away from the Shield. And dang, can I just make that point? He still has the triangular shield.
Mm-hmm.
Because we saw at the end of Sam Wilson Captain America, he left his shield behind.
Mm-hmm.
Cap could have gone and picked that back up, but he knows in his heart that's not his shield. Because he knows...
Or he's not worthy of it.
You know what it is? Let me be honest with you. I'm willing to wager on you. I'm going to go a little crazy on you here. Shield is a vibranium adamantium fusion, right?
Yeah, but we play down that adamantium these days. But yeah.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that vibranium, it vibrates. It knows that's not Cap.
Oh.
And I bet you there's a part of him that doesn't want to touch the shield.
Huh.
That is almost afraid to touch his shield.
But I mean, that original adamantium vibranium shield. John Walker used that for a while when he was Captain America. Didn't seem to have a problem. Sam Wilson's used it.
No. What I'm saying is, yeah, they all used it, but it's a shield that has. It's like this right now. Cap's this is all comic book logic. This is really also all on the fly. But imagine this: Cap's atoms are out of sync. Who Cap is being forced into another mold. And part of him knows that if he touches his original shield, its vibrations are going to shock his atoms back to where they're supposed to be. And he's somewhat afraid of that. He's not going to admit that.
But my question is then what's that triangular shield made out of? Because I thought it was some kind of vibranium or something.
Well, it's kind of vibranium, but it also doesn't know who the real Cap is.
Oh, okay, yeah, true.
Because he didn't get that shield until this was the Cap.
Yes.
And so that shield thinks this is Cap.
Hmm.
You might even have a weird thing where it's like, depending on which shield he picks up, his personality changes. So write this down, Marvel.
True.
These are important things to remember, because if he ever picks up the other shield, it's going to start readjusting him back to what he once was, you know?
Nick Spencer, give Charlie Esser credit.
Yeah, well, if he uses it. Nick Spencer doesn't got time for my crazy ideas. But we'll see what he has time for. But all in all, man, these are some really fascinating stories. And one thing, now I'm not sure how much, because this is pure super connection. Someone over at CBR, and I'm blanking on the name of the author of that article. Let me just pull it up real quick here. Because I do want to give proper credit to the person who wrote this. Christos Tsirbas. Christos Tsirbas wrote this story. Basically, it's his analysis. I'm assuming it's a male. Christos is generally speaking a male name, but you never know. His analysis of what we saw at the end of Secret Empire #1. And what we see is Rick Jones, as he's about to die, shout, "Avengers Assemble." For whatever reason, they didn't put the image of him actually saying that from the Kree Skrull War book, where he calls forth the original heroes from the Golden Age Marvel Comics. Again, though, as an interesting point of order, one of the heroes he called forward was the original Vision. And as we know, we're going to get some craziness here. As we know from the Invaders versus Avengers crossover, the original Vision is from a race of beings that help cosmic cubes evolve.
Ooh.
Now, this writer, Christos, he's suggesting that Rick calling out Avengers Assemble could signal that Captain Marvel could come back, because of course Captain Marvel was for the longest time bound to Rick Jones. And we do know that negabands were recently discovered. So if the negabands find their way to Rick Jones, and maybe if he gets buried with the negabands, and as they're dropping him in the ground, they clink together. I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm just saying you might get something pulled forward. Maybe we'll get someone who is both Rick Jones and Captain Marvel. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but that's a possibility. I mean, something crazy could happen. Or as they suggest, maybe this just paves the way for Captain Marvel to come back if Wayne Kovic, reconstructs the universe. He comes back. Now, there was an interesting point they brought up in this. Okay, and this is gonna be a little cross-dimensional here. Okay, They brought back the fact that the Winter Soldier actually survived, which is interesting. But let me tell you a little story. Remember the what was it called? I think it was called Avengers Assemble or Avengers Earth. The one right now is Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. The one back in the day that everyone got mad when they canceled it to put out the new Avengers was called Avengers Assemble, if I remember correctly. In that storyline, they actually introduced the Cosmic Cube as a recent invention of AIM. And you see, because this was tied into the whole Wonder Man story arc, where basically Hydra had paid AIM to develop the Cosmic Cube, and Hydra was happy to take their money because they knew such a thing was impossible. Then they realized that, oh my goodness, we can actually make one of these things. So they quickly go back to Baron Strucker and say, we can't take your money no more. It's an impossibility. Then they went and created the Cosmic Cube. Anyway, so the Cosmic Cube is in existence. There's a lot of battles and all this kind of stuff. And in his last moment, Steve Rogers, when he destroys the Cosmic Cube, or whatever he does, I don't remember the exact thing, but he touches the Cosmic Cube. And then you see this flashback to Bucky, being thrown from the plane and falling into the ocean. And then all of a sudden you see in the ocean his eyes open up. Suggesting that the entire reason why the Winter Soldier existed in that universe was because Steve Rogers made a wish on the Cosmic Cube. That Bucky wasn't actually dead. And of course, within that you have this suggestion that basically Steve made Bucky come back alive, but that also meant that he got captured by the Russians and brainwashed. That it's Steve's fault Bucky became the Winter Soldier. Because Steve made that wish. Now, within this entire concept, now I don't think they ever actually did that. They actually had something similar where basically Steve gave Bucky his memories back, but he gave all of his memories back to Bucky so that he also remembered all the times, all the people he'd killed as the Winter Soldier and things like that.
Well, yeah, that was the end of that first arc. Because what was that? That Lukin, the Russian guy, he was. That's what the cosmic. Yeah, and Steve got it, and he said, remember it. Remember everything, because Bucky was so brainwashed he didn't remember anything.
Yeah, and then of course the cube disperses again.
Mm-hmm.
But again, in that moment, and again in that we have this whole thing with that cosmic cube that was the Red Skull's cube, that fractured cube that eventually becomes Kobik. We see Kobik sort of wandering around this universe, always right there in Steve Rogers' orbit, and always messing with the past in some way. So it's interesting that this is where Kobik finds itself, both its creation as a being and everything else. And, it's an interesting idea when we talk about something like Pleasant Hill and this idea of recreating supervillains into people, into humans. And if you ever ask the question, how far back did those memories go? When you create someone out of nothing, how far back do the memories go? How far back do those actions go? Did they exist merely in that moment, or did these people always exist within that timeline? Did a history come into existence? And you compare that to something like the Sentry, again, where the Sentry shows up, and all of a sudden now that everyone can remember, they can find things. And was that thing always there? Or does it only exist now because the memory has been recovered? It's some very weird stuff we're dealing with the cosmic cube, with all this. I do wonder where it is leading, because it does seem to be something that is leading somewhere. And if that's going to be a universe with a Steve or without a Steve, I don't know. Here's an interesting idea for you. You ready for this?
Hit me.
What if at the end of this, Steve realizes what he's done? Realizes he cannot be Captain America again. Whether because he picks up the shield and the shield tells him who he was, but he also remembers who he once was. What if Steve decides to become the Man on the Wall? What if Steve says, I can't be Captain America anymore, but I've got to do something. I've got to still protect people. And says, I'll be the Man on the Wall. Tells Bucky. Or maybe he just teams up with Bucky and says, you can't be the Man on the Wall by yourself. I'll be there with you. Steve and James fighting for the universe, keeping the world safe. All sight unseen. And you can see, cut to, Nick Fury on the moon, just smiling. Because that's what he wanted the whole time. I don't know. But that's a possibility. And I've been thinking that maybe Steve's going to become the Man on the Wall. And I think that's how this is going to resolve. Because I don't think they're going to be able to let Steve come back to being Cap. And you think about what job would be open for Cap where he could be Cap again. And the one place he could go after all this craziness is he could go and be the Man on the Wall again. Or not again, for the first time. I think that's how this resolves. I think he becomes disillusioned with Hydra. Perhaps he recovers who he was. Perhaps what Elisa is gets shattered and the different universe spins off. Because again, I do think this is tied to that Hail Hydra universe in some way from the Secret Wars world, Of course, there were a couple different Hydra universes in there, because you got to remember there was also the Hydra universe that the Agents of Atlas fought,
So maybe Kobik didn't create it from scratch, just picked pieces from like one or two other universes.
Well, not for nothing. That's all Franklin did.
Oh yeah.
When Franklin, that's what I say. I firmly believe that Steve and Tony died on the old world, and the Steve and Tony in this world are from other universes that Franklin reached out to and grabbed. Other bits. Some he made out of whole cloth. Some he had to grab someone from somewhere else. And that's why you have people who recover their memories of their old lives. Because their self in that other universe wasn't this person.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they have to recreate who they were. There's clearly something going on here, and I think that that's what we're looking at here. I think that's what we're going to be growing to. And exactly how much data we get on this, I don't know. I think a lot of it is going to be over in the Ultimates. Some of it's going to be here in Secret Empire. I'm real excited about all of it. I honestly feel this is probably the best event Marvel has come up with. Although I will say I am glad this is our last event for 18 months. Although then we got Legacy coming up, so I don't even know if that's an event or a crossover or just a separate set of books. I don't really know what that's supposed to be yet.
Well, since they said there's not an event for 18 months, I'm assuming it's going to be like its own books and not cross over into anything else.
I guess so, except it's full of people who have their own books, so that's a little weird to me. I don't know.
Hey, including in that picture we saw the original Captain Marvel's in there, so might be lending credence to him coming back.
Possibly. Of course, also the original Captain America's there too, so goodness knows what that's all about. Okay, you have anything else you want to say about Secret Empire #1, Phil?
No, I think between this and Marvel Roundup, which everyone should have listened to this week, I think we covered it pretty well.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. The other big news, so we had 2 Inhumans items drop today. And one was a picture of the Inhuman royal family. Although, as I saw someone post to CBR today, they better hope that Hanna-Barbera doesn't sue them for ripping off the Scooby Gang. Which, honestly, the only reason they're saying it because of the dang red wig and purple dress that the Medusa character is wearing. She looks like Daphne.
Someone else say it looks like one of the bad X-Men movies.
Yeah. You know what and this is what I'm going to tell you. You know what my biggest problem with that photo is?
What?
Black Bolt.
No mask.
Oh, if only he was wearing a mask. Cover up that mug of his. No, here's the problem. He's making a weird face. And it's a face that... Here's the thing. Okay, Black Bolt is silent.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say Black Bolt is silent, that doesn't just mean he doesn't say anything. It means he is under so much control, he doesn't make noise. Which means he doesn't bat his eyelashes, he doesn't make faces much, He is like basically he communicates solely through micro expressions. The entire reason why the Medusa character is so freaking important to this is because all of Black Bolt's communication has to come from Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's her sharing her connection with Black Bolt to be his words, because he has no words. And to see him there basically making a face, like, I'm about to say something. I'm full of thoughts. Let me tell you what they are. It's like, no, Black Bolt, don't, You never want this guy exhaling loudly, You don't want Black Bolt to have an exasperated sigh. You don't want him rolling his eyes left and right. You want him to basically be looking like a statue.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you have to have someone that can act with just their eyes, that can communicate a thought with just their eyes. And
I know what you're saying, that the face is weird in that picture, and maybe Black Bolt gets constipated. I don't know, but do you think maybe it's just because it's a still picture? Maybe once it's video,
and someone said, hey, look, EW is known for really lousy photo shoots. Yeah. Taking stupid looking pictures. So I'm going to give them that. And honestly, the fact that it's such like a bare bones set there in front of it was like, apparently they're a band in somebody's basement. And they're shooting the album cover today. I don't know. It was just not, there was nothing about that picture that spoke to the grandeur of everything, and, it was
maybe
weird.
the backgrounds, like I said, or like the costume, maybe there's going to be like a lot more CGI involved. Maybe
yeah, but then you have to have at least something in the picture. I don't know. I don't want to dwell too much on the picture because we did get one other thing today, which actually I thought was good. Okay, we got our teaser, and I actually wrote a message to you about the teaser on Facebook. Did you see that, Phil? Or
No.
I did tag you in, and it said you were tagged. I don't know. Sometimes when I tag people on CBR, it doesn't always show up. But here's the thing. So did you see the teaser, Phil?
Well, there was a trailer? Like
it's a teaser trailer. It's not much.
No, I'm sorry, okay. I didn't see it.
Well, so here's the thing. Two things we get in this. Thing one is we see Atlan. So it's from a Disney, you see Inhumans, and you see what is essentially a city underneath like a glass pyramid, and you see, and obviously anyone who looks at it is going to say, oh, Atlan. Okay, cool. So we know that our setting is Atlan at this point. Now, how long they're in Atlan, where they go from Atlan, we don't know yet. We also hear two voices speaking, a male and a female. The male is saying, there's dissension in the royal family, and the female is saying, and what you want to stage a you want to overthrow the revolution, and the other voice says, no, I want freedom for our people. Really well voice acted. The people saying these lines are doing it very well. I don't know what all the actresses sound like, so I don't know if that's Medusa or Crystal. And who is talking there is a really important dynamic. Because Medusa talking to Maximus is interesting. But Maximus talking to Crystal is insanely interesting. Because if he's talking to Crystal, then he is basically setting her up to be his ally in this internecine battle for control of Atlan.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly the destruction of Atlan, and possibly the exile of the Inhumans into the rest of the world. And exactly what we're going to get, we don't know yet, but it is an interesting way to start. I am going to be very curious to see where this all goes. Now,
but I did see the post on Facebook you put up, and I think your first point, like you were saying, it's in the Himalayas, and everyone, Charlie Esser puts, yeah, we see Atalans in the Himalayas, possibly down the street from Kunlun.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's kind of, if they're in the Himalayas, then yeah, they're 2 blocks from Kunlun. You got Kunlun, you got the cities of heaven. Oh, what'll be funny is if we actually find out that Atlan is one of the cities of heaven. One of the 7 capital cities of heaven. One is Atlan. Hey, it's a great way to tie in that whole science to magic.
Hey, Karnak's their immortal weapon.
There you go. Oh, Karnak, yeah. Someone did make a post on there about them sticking with the with the stereotypes of, we have the guy who knows karate being Asian, the Gorgon, the big strong guy being African American. It's like, someone else had made a point of like, well, gee, what if they, if you do that a different, if you don't do it that way, then, you're going to have all these other problems. And I sort of said, well, no, you just make, Gorgon Asian. Well, actually I said make Gorgon Indian, make Karnak African American. And I think I made Maximus, I forget exactly. Oh, I said, and make Black Bolt Asian, and there you go. You can even keep the white girls. So,
all right, 2 points. One, I don't care what color Gorgon is. Is he going to have like those hooves for feet?
It doesn't look like it.
Oh man. Yeah, and did they show what's his name? Is it Triton? Like the green Aquaman type guy?
No, Triton isn't pictured. So not pictured, Triton.
Oh.
Weirdly enough, in the Spider-Man cartoons, Triton's a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like a young kid, Inhuman. And so he's hanging out with Spider-Man now. And as an interesting side point, apparently it's the canon now that Karnak has not gone through Terrigenesis, and apparently, I don't know how long that's been the status quo, but he got so freaked out when Triton became basically a fish man and realized that he almost died by becoming a fish man because he has to breathe water. That's why he's got like the purple stuff on his suit, because if he doesn't have that, he can't breathe. Yes. And, that's Triton for you. But that's in the comic books. But no, so far we don't have a Triton in the series. So he may show up at some point, but apparently he's not a major character. And not for nothing, that's a lot of makeup or CGI you're putting on some poor guy. So I understand why they didn't do that. It is still a little disappointing, not to have a Triton, and not to have, like I said, and I didn't see Gorgon I didn't see him having hooves. Maybe he has hooves. Maybe he's like, what's his name? Torgo not Centaur, Satyr from Manos Hands of Fate, where he's wearing pants, but you just see, hey, he's got like huge knees. We've all seen Manos Hands of Fate, right? Yes. Okay. So we all remember Torgo. Yes, he is supposed to be a satyr, apparently, and because he's wearing pants, you don't see that he's got the goat legs. So that's my take on Gorgon there, is that he's got goat legs, you just don't see him because he's wearing pants. Moving right along. But that's what we're looking at here is, it takes place on Atalan. It could be in the blue area, and it could actually be in the blue area of the moon. I hope it's not. For a lot of reasons, just not for nothing, because we've been to the moon. It would be hard to hide a city on the moon, especially if it's like a city in like the mysterious blue area of the moon. It's much easier to hide a city in the Himalayas because, we've been all up and down the Himalayas, but you could argue that, in the snows and the winds, there's parts of the Himalayas we haven't really explored. And
but can't they have like advanced cloaking technology or something?
Well, exactly. I mean, they could. And for what it's worth, we did find out. So spoilers, everyone. Spoilers. There is an after credits scene that we've heard about in Guardians of the Galaxy, although it is out as of today.
Yes.
So hopefully,
and by the time by the time you hear this, you should have seen it.
Hopefully you have. But there is an after credits scene featuring Stan Lee Lieber himself, talking to the Watchers about all his adventures. And apparently he's in a spacesuit. And he's just sitting there with the Watchers who are kind of rolling their eyes at all the things Stan has seen. Which I just thought was a beautiful idea for a thing. But it does suggest the Watchers, and therefore the blue area of the moon, are part of things Marvel owns. Whether that's something that is co-owned with Fox, we don't know. But apparently it is something that they own. Now, of course, the Watchers first appeared in Fantastic Four, but they have been all over the Marvel Universe. And I think what you might be seeing is stuff that was all over the Marvel Universe before the rights were sold, didn't 100% transfer. So that Fox may have the rights to their own Watchers, in the same way that, Fox and Marvel each had a Scarlet Witch and a Quicksilver, but
Yeah, that whole thing was weird because I put up an article a couple weeks ago, like who owns what, and like I think it was Fox with their Fantastic Four stuff. They got like Beta Ray Bill. I was like, okay, that's random.
Yeah, that is fully random. That is literally as random as something could be. And I don't know how much I ever trust any of the sites that say who owns what. I mean, it's always fascinating, but it's, unless you are a lawyer with access to the contracts, you don't really know who owns what. And a lot of times, it's not even that the contracts specifically state someone owns this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's telling people that stuff is owned, and everyone has to figure out who, and then basically it's the use rule, That's why Fox was always putting in so many mutants in their movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wanted to show that we're using them, we haven't gotten rid of them, we're not sacrificing our rights to them. Mm-hmm. So, that is the thing, because anything they don't use arguably reverts to Marvel. And you can make the strong argument that because Fox hasn't used a Watcher in so long, they're not using the Watchers. Now, along those same lines, they've never used Ego, the Living Planet, either, but that had to be negotiated with James Gunn. So I don't know exactly what we're looking at here, but we do know that apparently, according to the spoiler that has been leaked, the Watchers are in the universe. So Atalan could be on the blue area of the moon. I mean, it works. It's not impossible. It's just a little disappointing overall because, like I said, I just don't want it to be on the blue area of the moon already. Yeah. I think part of that transit from the Himalayas to the blue area of the moon is important because it is specifically about the Inhumans having to leave the Earth because it's like their secrets are out,
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. It's important. I wonder, since it's a TV show, if that'll be like the season 1 finale or the season 2 finale is them, transporting it to the moon.
You know what? It might be the third episode.
You never know.
Because
Yeah,
it's like
I know.
2 episodes in the IMAX theater.
IMAX, yeah.
Now we've got to get off the planet Earth because we got to make this all bottle shows. Although, like I said, I mean, you have to say that the Inhumans can't ignore the resurgence of new humans out there in the rest of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let them ignore the fact that Inhumans have been existing in this universe for so long, and they have to explain why the Inhumans have been ignoring them. Why this pure line of Inhumans has been ignoring them. And we still get nothing on that. Although, again, that may be what Maximus's conversation with either Crystal or Medusa is about. Because, Maximus may be saying, our people are out there, we need to reclaim them. We need to break away. And Black Bolt may be the one saying, no, we are the pure Inhumans. We do not leave Attilan. And then that's where the wackiness ensues. So, I, for one, here's what I'm going to say. I'm still excited. Here's what I'll say. Iron Fist is not the best series. It is poorly produced. It is very low budget. And as I've said to Maz, I think what happened with Iron Fist is that they suddenly decided to make a Punisher series, but they didn't increase their overall budget, so they just cut Iron Fist's budget in half. And
I heard. Yeah, I heard this conversation. Yeah,
gave the other half to the Punisher. Which means the Punisher may suck just as badly as Iron Fist. So be ready for that, people. Because we were all excited for Iron Fist, and then...
Yeah, but I mean, do you need as many special effects on a Punisher as you do on an Iron Fist? I mean, you need, like, the gunfire and stuff, but besides... I mean, if he's just fighting regular gangsters or something, all you need is, like, the guns and stuff.
Well, but like I said, one of the biggest costs in those kinds of series isn't so much even the special effects as it is the multiple takes.
Yeah.
When you have to edit a bunch of... When you don't have a good continuous take, it's hard to piece it back together. And I do think that's a lot of what the problem is with Iron Fist. I think that they had a lot of non-continuous takes that they've had to piece back together.
And I mean, I'm sure you're right about the budget, but I'm like, you would think they would give them more of a budget for these shows. I mean, they've proven to be successes. I mean, even people who are crapping on Iron Fist, people are there.
Yeah, well, what I think the issue is with Iron Fist is just that, it's still, it's the worst show that Marvel has put out since Spider-Man, because The Incredible Hulk was actually a pretty good show. Yeah. Spider-Man wasn't that bad either. But
I mean, I see glimmers of good in Iron Fist, but it's just like every episode is just like I said, it seems like the Meacham show guest starring Iron Fist. It's like every episode is like, oh, what are we going to do about Danny?
Yeah, and then, you just, the whole thing with the hand, which is like, what's that about? It's, they really have not.
Well, the hand's coming in Defenders, so.
Well, yeah, but we have the hand here, and they're not, what's weird about the hand in Iron Fist is just that the hand is not the super spooky ghost organization. They're
they're not united. Yeah, they're not united. They have this group of Madame Gao's group over here. You got the other group over here.
Yeah, Bakudo's group. Yeah. And I don't even know what that's about. But what's weird about that is it also seems that, well, here's what I'm going to say. It seems like there is an overall hand. That there's a hand, and then there are essentially the fingers. And Gao's a finger, and Bakudo's a finger. And and the hand is letting the fingers do what they want to do, so long as it's moving things forward. And Gao is doing this thing with this heroine for reasons. Although for what it's worth, Gao was dealing with the heroine back in Daredevil. Gao was running a heroin trade back then, so it's not like the hand was not, drug dealers back then. It was just one of the many pies they had their fingers in. What's weird about this hand is that they seem way too easy to defeat.
Yeah, I know.
But I guess what you can say is not that they can call in the full unliving ninja clan for Daredevil, but right now it's not time for the unliving ninja clan. Right now there's
well, I mean, in defense, I think Gal just wanted to smash Daredevil down. I think here she was maybe thinking, oh, maybe we can corrupt this Iron Fist and bring him to our side.
Well, yeah, that's definitely what she's saying. She definitely feels like, Iron Fist, you've been fed a line by your monks, and you want to go back to being Danny Rand, I'm more than happy to let you be Danny Rand. I have no problem with. I want to have a truce with the Iron Fist. You know. Now the real question is going to be is if the hand moves on Kunlun. If since the passageway is undefended, is the hand going to move on Kunlun? Now I have no idea how Iron Fist ends yet. I haven't gotten that far yet. We're going to be wrapping it up in the next 3 episodes, and it may wrap up in Defenders. But it's an interesting question about what's going on with the Iron Fist. So, but yeah. So I mean that's that. I don't know. It's still a decent show. It's just, we've all seen better.
I'm still waiting for Madame Gao to tell someone talk to the hand.
You must talk to the hand. Yeah, that'll be great. And on that note, Phil, if someone wants to reach out to you and talk to you about all the super connections that exist, where can they find you?
If you want to hear more bad jokes, you can always email me personally, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. And as we've been mentioning on all our various podcasts, some of them are ending at the end of May, and some, like Superconnectivity here, are going to our new Capes and Lunatics podcast, which you can find on Facebook, on Twitter at Capes Lunatics. We're even on Instagram, Pinterest, but also we have follow Superconnectivity. So yeah, we're going to do something special, with Superconnectivity. Like, we've been on Facebook, facebook.com/Superconnectivity podcast. Twitter is at SuperConnectPod. But just today I started an Instagram account for Superconnectivity. Please follow us there, because I think I'm going to start with this episode. I'm going to try to put pictures up on Instagram of some of the things we talk about every episode. So if you're kind of like, what are they talking about? Go check out pictures. If we talk about comic books, try to put pictures of that up. This episode, maybe I'll put up that Inhumans picture with the constipated Black Bolt. But yeah, follow us. Get in on the ground floor, Capes and Lunatics, and everything we're going to do there. Sorry, that was long-winded. Charlie.
Yes. Well, yeah, stick around for all this stuff. Superconnectivity may be going somewhere, but it'll always be in your hearts, and it will always be on the Southgate Media Network. Until then, if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way, you can always do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters in that old-fashioned email way as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Incredible Hulk, 7 o'clock on Saturdays, and whatever else my heart so desires. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsselCR. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Thank you for connecting with us once again, ladies and gentlemen. Please connect with us